Good evening and welcome to the Murfreesboro City Board of Education Special Call Board Meeting, our policy work session. Good evening to all the board members and those that are in attendance. Good evening, Dr. Gilbert.
Good evening.
And I'm going to turn it over to you.
At this time, I thought it might be appropriate that we remember a very special lady who passed away recently, and her celebration was this Saturday. At that celebration, Pastor James McCarroll delivered the eulogy for Miss Mary Scales, and he talked about how special she was, and he talked about how she always believed that things could be done. He also referenced the fact that she always talked about that it's all about the children. As we know, Mary, along with her husband, Robert, who many of us call T90, fought bigotry and prejudice and really ensured a bright future for a lot of children and families in this community. And as I said, during the eulogy, the pastor talked about that she never viewed any job as too big, that she always thought that it could be done, and she was a person that saw that it was done. She didn't depend on others and wait and perhaps not see that it was done. Throughout her life, she and her husband tackled things that couldn't be done. Mary was the first African-American faculty member at MTSU. Subsequently, she was the school's Associate Dean of Continuing Studies and Public Service. She was the first African-American female member elected to the City Council. Her husband, of course, previously had served as vice mayor. She was the first African-American to have a city school named after her and her husband. And she was one of the founding members of the Martin Luther King Scholarship of Rutherford County. So the Scales were very involved in the community. Certainly they were responsible for the peaceful desegregation of the schools and businesses of Murfreesboro. So I thought that it would be good for us to acknowledge her tonight and to keep the Scales family in remembrance, and to let them know that we are thinking of them, but most importantly that we do acknowledge what she did for this community and what the Scales family has done for this community, and particularly for Murfreesboro City Schools.
And what they continue to do.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. And also, we want to remember our board attorney, Mrs. Baker, and condolences go out to her on the loss of her loved one also. But thank you, Dr. Gilbert. Mr. Ringstaff, approval of revision of employees' insurance plan?
Thank you. Murfreesboro City Schools is involved with the State of Tennessee Medical Plan, and up until this year, a plan called the Limited PPO has only been offered to the state employees. Now it's going to be offered to the local education agencies. Well, the Limited PPO is just that. It doesn't cover as much as the partnership and the standard PPOs, the other coverages that we have, the other plans. So we looked at what you call gap insurance or supplement insurance, an insurance that would pay what the limited PPO doesn't pay. And we put a bid out, and we had several companies to place a bid, and we would recommend the Beasley Group for the gap insurance after analyzing the coverages and the rates. And they have per person calendar year $6,000 as an inpatient benefit and a $4,000 outpatient benefit for their coverages to help cover that gap between, let's say that the limited PPO pays 70%, but the employee pays 30%, and the deductibles are higher and the copays are a little bit higher. With the limited PPO and the gap insurance, it's a very attractive insurance, especially for employees who have employee spouse, employee children, and employee plus the family. A family coverage, they could save up to $275 a month in premiums alone. So it is our recommendations for you to consider the Beasley Group as providers to our gap insurance. It is no more money to Murfreesboro City Schools. It's not going to affect our budget in a negative way.
Okay. Mrs. Phillips, then Mr. Barrett.
Yes, sir. Just for the folks at home, I thought maybe we could review a little bit about that. Now, if I understand right from our discussion earlier, Mr. Ringstaff, that the state is going to require us to offer the limited PPO. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. In the past, we've offered called the partnership PPO and the standard PPO. Now the state is offering the limited PPO. And we have, not only are they offering it, but as a school system, we are required to offer that to our employees.
And we will also continue to offer the other plans at the same time.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's not changing. If an employee wants to take the partnership PPO, if they want to continue what they currently have, that's great. Standard PPO. And as always, Murfreesboro City Schools, as in the past, will pay 100% of the employee coverage. Mm-hmm. And we will apply that to the other coverages that they desire.
Now, would you review for us and for the folks at home, Mr. Ringstead, the ways in which our insurance offerings perhaps excel above maybe neighboring areas?
Yes, ma'am. Our insurance consultants, of course, have 5 points benefits, and we do pay 100% of employee coverage, regardless if they're in partnership or standard. And we are one of the few school systems around that pays 100% of employee coverages and applies that amount to family coverage, employee spouse, employee plus children. We're very fortunate here in Murfreesboro.
And we've always been committed to that. Now, I know that you and Mr. Anderson and whoever else have run the numbers and looked at it. Would you be able to advise the staff as to which would be in their best interest to take, whether to take the limited PPO and the gap or another plan?
It's really not our place to advise. What I can do is show them the numbers and show them the benefits of the gap and the limited PPO and compare it to the other plans. And they will have to make that decision on their own. But I can show them, okay, you're going to save $275 if you take the limited PPO plus the gap, if you have family coverage. And it's very hard, especially for our EAs, where the cost of family coverage is going to be over $800 a month. That's a huge chunk out of their paycheck. And when you go down from $800 to $525 a month, that's going to be very attractive to them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I understand exactly what you mean about advise, but I meant give enough information so they can make informed decisions.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We're going to. We've sent out several emails already about educating them on the gap insurance in anticipation of this vote tonight, and we've already issued the rates for our employees, what they can see, what they will save over the course of a year if they take the limited PPO plus the gap, and the insurance has gone up every year for the last 3 or 4 years. Effective January 1st, 2014, it's going up another 5.6% from 2013. So, yes, we're going to visit the schools, and we're going to help them enroll if they would like to change.
When is that enrollment? When they have to make their decisions by?
November the 1st.
Now, will they have time after when you're going to have people visit the school so they can ask questions?
Yes, ma'am. All employees, and probably even you, were mailed a username and a password and a link and instructions on how to change your medical insurance if you have it. And if not, we can help them with that process.
I guess I just want to make sure they have plenty of time to ask questions, get their answers, do a little bit of research before they have to make an absolute decision by that date.
Yes, ma'am. We have another 2 weeks to educate the employees further, and I'm answering all the emails that are sent my way, and so they can make the most informed decision possible.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ringstead.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Barrett and then Ms. Smith.
Are there other school districts using Beasley Group within Tennessee right now? Or?
Yes, sir. Cheatham County will also use them effective 2014, January 1st, 2014,
And then,
that I know of.
and then the other question I had, I think you alluded to it already, but what were some of the advantages of this plan over the other ones that were recommended, or not recommended, but
Yes, sir.
shown on the
If
list?
you would look, if you compare, the major ones is a $6,000 for inpatient benefits, because that's when you get into the deductibles and the co-pays, and that's the 30% that you have to pay, and the max would be $6,000. And also, they have a max outpatient benefit of $4,000 per person, which is huge. And if you look down here, there's several that's not covered, but the rider filed with Tennessee for anticipated January 1st, 2014. We do not we feel that all these services will be covered as of January 1st, 2014 that are not currently covered with Beasley.
Thank you.
Ms. Smith and then Mr. Campbell.
The main thing I want to clarify is the savings is from what our employees are spending right now every month. It's not from some random amount that they would be spending in the future. It's $285 difference from right now, right? Or is that the dollar?
No. The savings of $275 will be the rates effective January 1st, 2014. They will save probably around $250 compared to the rates that they're currently paying.
$250.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. It's not these
Yes.
rates for the future. Now, where's the Beasley Group located?
The insurance capital of the world, Connecticut.
But I do want to make sure that our constituents realize that this was an open process, that anyone could have applied, and
Yes,
these
ma'am.
were the best rates.
Yes, ma'am.
Campbell.
Ralph, you said they're in Connecticut. Where is the local agent or whatever? I guess they have an agent here, Beasley does.
I'm not sure. I know 5 Points is working with them for us.
Okay, and I understand that we will have somebody that will go to each school and answer questions like face-to-face, not just...
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll get 5 Points and myself to visit the schools.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Renier.
I think I understand this, that these new rates become effective the 1st of January, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So whatever they're paying now, the 1st of January, more than likely, they will see an increase in their take-home pay because this will lower the amount they're paying for insurance.
Yes, ma'am.
Yay, okay.
Are there any other questions?
Just a comment. I appreciate Mr. Ringstaff's work on this. One of the reasons that we really looked at this is because the last time the rates increased, it really hit the families hard.
Yes, it did.
And so that's why I appreciate the work that's gone into this, because I did not want to see another hit on our families like they had to take then. So if the gap insurance will do that, that makes me happy.
Yeah.
If there are no other questions from,
I was going to make a motion.
okay, Mr. Barrett,
I'll make a motion we approve the revision to employee insurance plan.
there's a motion and a second. All in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Any that oppose? Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion of zoning, Mr. Anderson.
So can I go to the podium so I can
You
present
sure
this to
can.
you? Thank you. Thank you. As you know, the City Council graciously allowed us to build a new school on the west side of town, and we have started that construction. It's well underway to open up next school year. And with that means we have to rezone. And to rezone, we have a lot of rezoning to consider, and I'm presenting to you tonight a rezoning plan that I'll go over here in just a minute. But I want to take you back to when Scales Elementary was built in 2005 and John Pittard was built in 2007. And since then, we had to rezone both of those schools a little bit in 2009. We had to tweak the numbers because those schools grew so fast. Well, it didn't stop there. Scales, again, is now over capacity. That's why we put 4 portables out there. And John Pittard now is over capacity. So we have to relieve the pressures on those schools best we can. Fortunately, on the west side of town, we have a brand-new facility that will seat 1,000 students. On the east side of town, and northeast, where John Pittard is, we do not have a new building, so we have to best utilize what facilities we do have. So that's why we're here tonight, and I wanted to go over with you what we're going to be doing to get there. We're going to, after I show you the plan this evening, we're going to have public input meetings. We have 3 established. They're going to be posted on our website. We're going to have 3 of them set up, one at Scales Elementary on October 24th, one at John Pittard on October 28th, and one at Bradley Academy on November 11th. And all of those meetings start at 5:30 and go till 6:30 for community input. We're asking the board to consider listening to the community input and making a decision in November at the November 19th meeting, so we can get the rezoning plan established and we can move forward, making sure we get things lined up for the start of the next school year. We also have on our website and at the community input meetings a comment sheet that I have here, and like I said, it'll be posted on the website, and you have a copy of it with you. We will collect the information that people put down, the comments. We will make a summary sheet of all the comments received, either through this or through our website under the icon that says Ask MCS. It's on the front page of our website, the bottom right-hand side, and people can comment that way. So either they can see you in person, they can email, they can fill out a form. We've tried to give every possible way to do that. I wanted to go over the primary goals of this rezoning, and the first one was, of course, to establish the new school zone for Overall Creek. The next was to reduce the number of students zoned to John Pittard to allow for future growth. The third was to make school zones as community-based as possible in a contiguous pattern utilizing major roads as dividing lines whenever possible. Also was to try to establish a 4 to 5 year zoning plan so we do not have to come back and rezone. The last time we rezoned was 2009, and again, that was just a tweak on those two schools, and we're going to be looking at starting in 2014. That is a 5-year window. So we're trying to keep the same level of consistency there for our students and our families. And then this plan would supersede any and previous zoning plans because it's a brand new plan that we're bringing forward. We used some methodology to create this plan for you to consider. One was to reestablish Reeves-Rogers campus as a regular K-6 campus to help the John Pittard capacity. On the on the east side of town, we have nowhere else to grow. So we have to recapture the ability that that school has and the number of seats available at that school. To make that happen, we then have to move our pre-K classrooms from Bellwood to current K-6 schools so that we can have our pre-K students go into the schools to where they'll be going to K-6 and get them in those schools ahead of time without making a transition from one school to the next as much as possible. It's not going to be totally possible in every single location because we do have some off-site locations and we do have some capacity issues still to have too many of those classes, but we do intend to move those out to the traditional K-6 rooms. The other thing is to reestablish the Bellwood campus as a K-6 campus by moving Discovery School back to where they originated from. Discovery School was born on the Bellwood campus, and we want to move that school back to that campus. But when we did it the first time, it was a pre-K and Bellwood Discovery. This time it will only be a Discovery School. The pre-K will not be located there. Also, we're going to add an additional school for special education students. Right now, we have 3 main campuses for our special needs students, and we want to add a 4th school so we can get them closer to their geographic areas of where they live. We also want to move our pre-K special ed programs into those same schools so they don't have to transition from one CDC school to another. They'll be in the same school. That will help the teachers and the students as they progress through the system. And then another big move that we are proposing is to move Mitchell-Nielsen Primary 2nd grade over to the Mitchell-Nielsen Elementary School. The elementary school is a bigger campus. We can better align our movement through there and help us utilize the primary for the programs in the pre-K. Anytime we make a move, we have to consider people grandfathering and siblings, because with a 5-year plan, if a student started in one of our schools that's now going to be rezoned, they start as a kindergartner, that means they would be currently in 4th grade. We are proposing that you allow current 4th graders, which would be rising 5th graders and older rising 6th graders, to be allowed to be grandfathered, and that is to stay at the school they're at. without being rezoned. Now, the one thing that we need to make sure everyone understands is we would not be able to provide transportation to those schools. They would have to provide their own transportation to stay in those schools that they're originally in. The other thing is the younger siblings. We do not want to split the family. If there is, for an example, a fourth grader and a second grader, the fourth grader would be a rising fifth grader. They could grandfather. We're also going to recommend that you allow the rising from second to third grader to stay there with their older sibling. And then they can continue in that school until they would graduate out of sixth grade. The part that I think the general public would need to know is that if they do have another sibling who is not in the school starting next year, then they would not benefit from that because there would be a break in the continuity of the students being in the school and in that chain. So that would be one major consideration to be looked at. I thought if you would like, I can show you the map here in the meeting room, and they do have it up on TV. So the people at home can see it, but just show you the basic ideas of the plan of what we've done. And what I thought is to show you that if you'll see, all the zones there's no more split zones. We've had in the past 3 or 4 schools that had split zones where they'd have it on different parts of the city. We don't have that in this plan at all. They are contiguous zones, meaning they touch each other no matter where they are within the city. Even the weird-looking design like this, like Cason Lane or Scales or the new overall Creek zone, they are contiguous, and the reason for that is areas that have not been annexed into the city of Murfreesboro. The north part of the city will be covered by Irma Siegel. There's a small piece over here that has been taken into the zone. The Northfield zone has been condensed down to a smaller area and does not cross over Memorial, where it used to cross over Memorial up here and down here, and we have made it so now it's all on one side of Memorial. The John Pittard zone used to come down here and encompass all this area, and to reestablish Reeves-Rogers as a traditional K-6 school, we were able to take the Highway 96 route here and make this and a part of what used to be the old Hobgood zone as the new zone for Reeves-Rogers. Hobgood's, since we've added 6 classrooms in Hobgood in the last 2 years, and the school is at capacity. So we took the larger group of students off here in this part and took a smaller group right here. So that made that zone. The Black Fox zone, we utilized I-24 as the main dividing line, and we had students that are down in this section here off Highway 231, and rather than having them fight the traffic going towards I-24 and then cutting across over to Black Fox, we are putting them at Cason Lane so that the bus transportation can actually go the opposite direction than the traffic flow, so we're not fighting the traffic coming in here. We anticipate additional growth in Black Fox zone because of the Amazon distribution center. The Cason Lane zone now is all on one side of the interstate. This section over here has now been rezoned to Mitchell Nielsen Elementary and Primary. And then the scale zone shrunk a lot, and the growth of the city is anticipated to come over on this side. So what we've done is we've established that anything to the west will be picked up by Scales and by Overall Creek, and we will have the northwest side picked up by Overall Creek and the southwest side picked up by Scales on future zoning. Currently there's some land masses that are looking to be annexed into the city with construction projects planned. Mitchell-Nielsen primary zone has been condensed down to a smaller geographic area to keep it more community-based. And Bradley we picked up the students who were currently zoned to Mitchell-Nielsen. They're right on the other side of Patterson Park, and they are right there at the campus, so we have put them into the Bradley Academy school zone. Those are the major zones, and just so everybody will know, the new school zone is basically Highway 96 over to Thompson Lane north, and then west of Rucker Lane. West of Rucker Lane, just a little bit south. The new school sits right there where my red dot is on the plan. So that's basically the plan. What we're going to have done is tomorrow morning there's a principal meeting. Every principal will receive a copy of this map and their own specific school zone blown up this big. So they'll have it at the school. I plan to send to Scales, the Scale Zone, and the overall Creek Zone, since obviously that's where the students are coming from. And I plan to send to John Pittard, the John Pittard Zone, and the Reeves-Rogers Zone, since that's where most of the children are coming from there. Everyone else will get their own school zone. So that's the main plan of how we're going to do this and how we're going to approach it and get the community input and get your questions answered and get the information back out to you. And as I said, we're not asking for any decisions tonight. I wanted to present this so the public could see what we're planning to do. This is major, major rezoning for the district. We haven't had anything like this since I've been in the district 12 years. So this is big.
Ms. Phillips.
Mr. Anderson, in our earlier study session, we all had a lot of dialogue about this, and I want to just publicly commend you, excuse me, for all your hard work on this and getting rid of, as I can see, what we call the pocket zones. That's just really a good thing. And now, I had some interest in the community meeting ideas. I was wondering if perhaps we could have the Mitchell-Nielsen community meeting earlier to accommodate. And actually, I was also worried about the times a little bit because the community meetings are all set for 5:30. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, these are families with elementary-age children. At 5:30, a lot of them are eating dinner. So I'm just getting home from work, and I was wondering if we could possibly have one meeting that would be perhaps a little later in the evening to accommodate families that, maybe are not able to attend a 5:30 meeting because of kids, dinner, picking them up from ESP, all that other. And the Mitchell-Nielsen, are we planning one at Mitchell-Nielsen? Are we? I can't find my list with the community.
No, I put it at Bradley since it was the middle of this area. What I did was I tried to put them on different aspects. Obviously, Scales because of the reconfiguration on this side, Pittard because of the reconfiguration on this side, and then Bradley because of the reconfiguration in the middle. I can reestablish more if you want more meetings, you want different times. These are come and go meetings. These are not where a meeting starts at 5:30 for a big presentation and then ends at 6:30. These are come and go type meetings.
But there'll be someone there to answer questions. Will there be questions and answers, or people just have to go in and write a comment? Or
What the intention is that we have the maps put up around the room, and either it's going to be in the gymnasium or in the cafeterias, and we'll have the maps put up around the room for people to see. It is for information for them to discuss with board members what is going on in the rezoning if a board member can be at the meeting. It's just for their input and for the board members to have the opportunity to listen and meet the public face-to-face on this.
Personally, I think it would be helpful to have someone from administration there to answer questions
Yes, I
that a
will be
board
there.
member might not, have every detail on. I just think that would be helpful to the public.
Yes,
And-
I will be there.
Okay. Okay. Good. And I would like to see a meeting at Mitchell-Nielsen personally, because we're moving all of second grade and we're adding certain things there, if at all possible. I'd love to have a meeting there. And I know that you all have been working with us and being flexible, and we're considering the community of children and families with disabled children, and how that are impacting those families. And we're going to have dialogue with that. And we have someone very, very involved that's going to work with having those kind of conversations with families, and I really appreciate that too.
Sure. If the board would like, I can establish another meeting date. I have no problem with that. I just tried to pick the three, north, middle, and southwest is what I tried to do. I don't mind if it's the will of the board. I'll be more than happy to establish another meeting date.
Mr. Campbell, Ms. Smith, and then Ms. Rainier.
Would you please explain to the general public and the parents, if they would have a comment or a suggestion, the process that they can go through the website?
Sure. Basically what we've established is an icon on the front page of our website, and it's called Ask MCS. And the icon is at the bottom right-hand side of the front page. When you click on that, it pulls up a little screen that you can put zoning question, or you can tile in what you want. Well, it's best to put something about rezoning or zoning. And then it goes to one email address, Ms. Trail takes care of that and handles all the flow of that information, and then we plan to gather all that information to get answers back to people if we need an immediate answer. Some people will just comment about things, so we will deal with that. The other way is if they come to the meeting, or they can print this off the website and write it by hand if they prefer to do it that way. So we have those ways, and then, of course, the face-to-face at the meetings.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. I hate to be you, rezoning. This is a massive plan, and I think that we figured out there are about 2,400 people that would be sitting in different desks than they would in.
There's the possibility, but with grandfathering, that can reduce it drastically. Because grandfathering
We got a lot of
siblings,
people
there
that
will
would be sitting
in
in different desks. My things are twofold. One is on the meeting schedule, I would like to see, and we can ask permission, it's to have the Discovery population have a PTO meeting or something to talk about the consideration of the proposal that Discovery move back into the Bellwood facility. But could you reiterate again about the plans for the pre-K? Just tell about the Bellwood distribution, and then the Discovery going into Bellwood, that whole formula.
As everyone knows, currently our pre-K students are at Bellwood or at 3 off-site locations. We will continue to have the 3 off-sites. The Bellwood students will be sent as close to their geographic area of the school they'll be going to, and we have, I believe it was 5 schools that we will have students actually going into the school itself and being housed in the school so that they can have an easier transition from pre-K into kindergarten into the rest of the school. So that would help that part. We do have the idea of moving the current Discovery School, basically picking it up and moving it over, same teacher, same capacity, same everything, moving over there and getting that one established. So it's basically opening us up capacity of 600 more seats on that side to help on this side. I'll keep pointing, I'm sorry. On this side over here to help us alleviate the problems at Hobgood that's at capacity and Pitter that's currently at capacity. So did I cover what you're asking?
No, absolutely you did. I just didn't know that we had enough in your breakdown about the conversation about the pre-Ks going into the standard elementary schools.
Okay.
Mrs. Rainier?
I was going to mention what Mrs. Smith has just mentioned, and I think the idea of having perhaps some scattered times for these meetings, if we continue with the 3 meetings at Scales, Pittard, and Bradley, and then perhaps add in Mitchell Nielsen, and then Reeves Rogers or Discovery School, and if we could maybe have one that might be slightly earlier, and then maybe if you want to keep 3 at 5:30, and then have one maybe at 7 o'clock. So if someone is not able to come to a 5:30 meeting for reasons that have been mentioned, maybe they can make a 7, or maybe they could make it at 4 o'clock, whatever. Maybe if we vary some of the times, we'll get a little better response. And also, as far as that form goes, I'm sure you will have some available at those meetings, but we also have to remember that there are some families who don't use technology. They're not going to pull that form off the internet. So
yes, we plan to have these at the meetings when people show up, and if they don't want to fill it out right there at the time, they can take it home and fill it out. And I haven't talked with Ms. Trail about this yet, but I believe they could send it back through the school, through their students, and get it back to us through the pony.
Through the pony, that's a good idea.
Do we need a motion to add that meeting? Ms. Baker? No. Okay.
Are there more questions for Mr. Anderson? Or comment, Mr. Barrett?
Just so the meeting's going to be open, not really formal, just kind of people coming in, answering the questionnaire, or they can talk to you about certain issues they have.
Yes, sir. It's mostly information gathering for board members, and they can ask me as to certain things, and I'm going to ask some other staff members to be there as well to assist with this. basically, if they just come and can get a chance to talk to somebody is important to them. To talk to someone face to face, I think, is a big concern for people, and we want them to have that opportunity.
And then I like the idea of moving our pre-K students into the elementary schools. That'll give them a chance to start getting used to that elementary setting. And I echo Nancy's sentiment about getting rid of these pocket zones. It looks like a good idea so far, and appreciate all the staff's hard work.
Thank you.
All righty. If there's nothing else for Mr. Anderson,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Anderson, and your committee that you're working with. Ms. Baker, we're going to pass on to you the board officer election.
Okay, the next item on your agenda is election of board chair and vice chair. According to board policy B03, and according to state statute TCA section 49-2-202C2 and section 25-6 of the Murfreesboro City Code, board officers are to be elected annually. The state statute mandates that the board only elect a board chair. However, board policy B03 mandates that the board elect a board chair and a vice chair. The term for the officers to be elected would be from November 1st, 2013 to October 31st of 2014. Nominations for board chair will be given, followed by a roll call for votes, and then nominations will be taken for vice chair with roll call to follow. A majority of the entire board, not just those present, which is 4 votes, is necessary for one to be voted into office, and that's pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 49-2-202G. Board officers cannot be elected by acclamation. After nominations have been made and seconded, Ms. Ridley will call your name, and you should state the name of the nominee you are voting for. Please remember, it takes 4 votes for a member to be elected. So we'll begin, and I will call for nominations for board chair.
I'd like to nominate Miss Mary Wade.
We need a second.
No. Are there any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, then Ms. Ridley, if you'll take a roll call vote for board chair.
Mary Wade.
Dr. Brown?
Mary Wade.
Mr. Campbell?
Mary Wade.
Ms. Phillips?
Mary Wade.
Ms. Rainier?
Mrs. Mary Wade.
Ms. Smith?
Mary Wade.
Ms. Wade?
I'm getting tickled at this group I'm working with, Mary Wade.
Okay, congratulations, Ms. Wade.
Thank you.
Okay, now I will call for nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Campbell.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Ridley, take a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Barrett?
Butch Campbell.
Mr. Brown? Dr. Brown?
Butch Campbell.
Mr. Campbell?
Butch Campbell.
Ms. Phillips?
Mr. Campbell.
Ms. Rainier?
Mr. Butch Campbell.
Ms. Smith?
Butch Campbell.
And Ms. White?
Mr. Campbell.
Congratulations, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you very much. Thank
May I make a comment? A
Yes,
commentary?
ma'am.
you. You can't change your vote now.
I am not changing my vote. I'm going to raise my vote, actually. I need to give y'all a little flattery. Y'all are wonderful leaders, and it is, as a newbie, kind of, I guess I can just keep on using that as I'm a new person. I don't know how long that I can last on that. You really have set a very nice precedent. I like how you run the meetings, and I really appreciate both of you stepping up for our leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Smith.
I do as I'm told by the chair.
Well, she's a good one.
She is good.
You know he doesn't listen. We know that. All righty, and thank you all so much for your votes for myself and for Mr. Campbell. And we plan to serve you well. I can speak for myself, and Mr. Campbell said I can speak for him. All righty, Dr. Gilbert, discussion of recess.
Yes, this is something that the board had brought up, so I will defer to the board.
I feel like I'm admitting a crime, but no, I am the one who's asked for the third time to have recess placed on the agenda, and I want to talk about that a little bit. When the schools, I guess school year first started, I had heard from several of my teacher friends that they shared with me some concerns that they had that the children weren't getting the time that the teachers felt were in the best interest of the children for their well-being. And so I brought that to you, and I was so pleased to find that your heart is for the children and you're committed to the children having age-appropriate recess or play. And we know through research how important that playtime is for the mental well-being, the physical well-being, and the mental health of our children. And so I know you are 100% committed to that, and for that I am very grateful. Now, I understand that there have been improvements in the commitment in the schools to the children having a decent recess, but I have to say that I continue to hear from several, almost many teachers that they still have concerns that the children are not getting adequate recess time. Now, what they tell me is happening is I think maybe, I don't know if you sent out an email or something talking about 20 minutes, being committed to 20 minutes of children having 20 minutes of playtime. What I hear is happening is that some of the older grades these are the things I've heard, possibly getting only 10 minutes of recess at the very end of the day instead of having it broken up in the middle of the day, that many times by the time the kids actually get out, get through the school and out the school and on the playground, they're not getting even 15 minutes, that sometimes with special areas they're having to be pulled in earlier and not getting so even though there's we have committed to the children having that kind of time, logistically it's proving more of a challenge than perhaps people expected it to be. And so it's not my job or my place to go in and try to, nose my nose in and figure out the logistics. And I know you are committed to that. But I just want to make sure that, and the reason that's happening is because the demands for accountability and testing on our classrooms, on our teachers, on our kids is making, it's making time more, each minute is a minute of value. And so they just don't have the flexibility that they had years ago for the kids. I don't think that's in the children's best interest. I think children will do better if they're allowed to be kids. They have to be allowed to be kids. And so I want to just reaffirm our commitment and bring to you these concerns because it was funny. I think the Daily News Journal did an article on it, and I found this very interesting. My retired friends posted it on Facebook, and they were like, yeah, great, recess, they're going to fight for recess and the kids. And all my friends that were still employed sent me private messages about it. So I think maybe they're afraid to publicly say we're still having concerns and we're still having trouble with recess. So with that said, I just wanted I will continue to voice for the children as long as I continue to hear that there's not just one or two little problems, but that there's a consistent issue in several schools. Not all schools. By the way, let me just say that's not all schools. It's just several schools.
I, in May, wrote an administrative directive that went out that said that supervised recess should be offered for a minimum of 20 minutes daily to all elementary pre-K through 6 school system children. It also said teachers and staff shall not exclude students from recess, physical activity, or physical education for punishment. We had a meeting actually with principals yesterday. I asked them if they were aware of any issues, and they were not. But I will reiterate this to them tomorrow, and also be sending out to all staff to let them know that if they are not giving 20 minutes, then they are in violation of the directive.
Well, I appreciate that, and I need my teacher friends to step up and let you know, or let their principals know if they're having some concerns about it too.
That
because
would be good,
they can't
because
solve
it needs
problems.
to go to the principal.
That's right. It can't solve problems they don't know about.
That's their job.
Right.
Ms. Smith and then Ms. Rainier.
I'm glad that you brought it up again, because it certainly is always a question. And I do want to remind people, this board had a very long conversation about recess just a month or two ago, saying that we are advocates for recess and how important it is for our students to have that opportunity to run around so that they can learn in the classroom. I just can't imagine having a 4th or 5th grade son that wouldn't have the ability to run around and have recess and have to, burn some of that energy. And also part of going to school is having fun with your friends, and that helps in the classroom too, I assume. That I'm glad to hear your administrative directive, and that was one of the questions I was kind of asking privately, and I kind of couldn't hear very clearly for some reason, but they are to get the full 20 minutes.
20 minutes now.
Even if they get in trouble in the cafeteria?
Yes.
Okay, that's so.
I am fine with them now. I will tell you that there are teachers that will have the children walk, and I have no problem with that. But I'm not okay with having it as punishment, as far as taking the recess.
I think maybe that does need to be reissued.
Now, I need the board to understand that while I am certainly as committed as anyone to recess, that 20 minutes, I'm not. A teacher's in control of their classroom, and a principal's in control of their school. And so for me to have and say, this is the time that you're going to have that 20 minutes, or this is how you're going to use that 20 minutes, I'm not about to go there. But I am clear on that I expect them to have recess time. And that can look like different things, and I'm aware of that.
Anybody else?
Ms. Renier?
I think that it should also be restated that this directive says a minimum of 20 minutes. So they would not be out of line if they spent 30 minutes.
Okay, Ms. Phillips.
That's a good point. And I appreciate my colleagues on the board listening to this and being, strong advocates for this. I really do appreciate that. And like I said, I know it's the 3rd time, but as long as I continue to hear, not just 1 or 2 isolated, but it was some consistency. And I know we've made progress, so I'm really glad about that. We are making progress, and we will get there. But just want to keep it on the table.
Okay, if there are no other comments from the board about Dr. Brown.
Well, then I'll have to address that in that if there are issues and the principals are not aware of it, the principals need to be made aware of these issues. So I would encourage the teachers, if there are issues, to go speak with their individual principal, and then if there are not results, then go to Dr. Gilbert to try to get the issues solved.
It's very difficult when you have over 500 teachers to know unless I know what's happening and unless I'm told.
Right.
Thank you, Dr. Brown and Dr. Gilbert. If there are no more comments or anything else, I do encourage the same as Dr. Gilbert and Dr. Brown has said, make the principal aware, and then if nothing's done, then Dr. Gilbert should be made aware. Review of the draft of our October 22nd agenda for our meeting. I'll say that you've probably had a chance to look it over. If there anything that should have our attention at the next meeting, this is our agenda, so be prepared to discuss it. Or if you have anything you want to add, please. Yes, ma'am.
This is not, pardon me, I'm so sorry. This is not really on this agenda, but we did make a change for our next month's meetings, correct? So could we reiterate those dates? We are no longer meeting on, was it the 11th, and we're meeting on the 19th, or and will we meet the Tuesday before Thanksgiving? Can we just make sure that we all get it? Because I've updated my phone, and I'm having trouble with my calendar right now. I want to make sure I have it right.
It's called modern technology.
Oh, no, it's no good.
Do you have our dates for us, Mrs. Ridley?
Yes. In November, you were going to meet on the 12th, I believe it was. You're going to meet on the 19th for your policy meeting and on the 26th for your regular meeting.
because we have two illustrious members who are going to be at the Read to Succeed Spelling Bee, correct?
That's correct.
Shall we applaud them now?
Only if they win.
Only if they win. Well, we're looking forward to the spelling bee with.
Who else is in it? I'm in it.
Oh, I thought.
It's Robin
Is it
Newell.
just-
Yes.
Oh, right.
I challenge Robin Newell right here, right
That's
now.
it. She has been officially challenged.
We meet next Tuesday, too, don't we?
Yes, sir. We meet next Tuesday night at 6. Mm-hmm.
I have something.
Mrs. Phillips?
I want to take a moment and thank Dr. Gilbert and Mrs. Wade for coming to Murph's Fun Run. A good time was had by all, and they they selected the Spirit Award kids, and they did an awesome job. And I really appreciate them coming and supporting healthy choices for kids.
It was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Thank you for the
It was
invitation.
a tough job, is what it was.
If there's nothing else, board, is there anything else? I see nothing else on the paper, but to adjourn, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
We adjourn.